Welcome to Allies or Enemies. I'm Jess.
And I am Sean, and today we are continuing to count down our top 100 favorite board games of all time.
We will be counting down from 90 to 81, counting down the 80s.
Yep, counting down the 80s. And speaking of the 80s, our game set in the 80s is coming out very soon. Well, coming to Kickstarter. Well, right now the preview page is on Kickstarter, so you can go follow that now. That is last week of summer, but we are going to be launching on August 19th. So please be there for that. We'd be very excited, and go check that out. But right now, let's check out our number 90. My number 90 is Paladins of the West Kingdom, and this is, I think, the heaviest of the West Kingdom series from S.J. McDonald and Shem Phillips, and this is really this kind of interconnected worker placement-ish game. So you're drafting workers, and they come in a bunch of different colors, and then you're putting them out on your board to do all these different actions, which are getting you houses and building walls and all sorts of stuff. But when you do those actions, they're kind of helping you do other actions. So like when you do the red action, it helps you do the black action. And when you do the black action, it helps you do the blue action. And so everything that you do is kind of bumping up your capacity to do different stuff. So it's this really interesting game where you can definitely not just follow one thing and focus on one thing. You don't have to do everything, but you got to do a few things and figure out a way that they're going to interconnect just right. Then there's also these cards and your actual paladins you're choosing each time to decide like which spaces are beefed up a little bit for that round. So there's way too many moving parts to explain here, but it is very, very satisfying, and it's actually surprisingly smooth for how many moving parts there are, and it is my number 90.
My number 90 is Luthier, and Luthier just came out this year. In it, you are making instruments, and the theme is really integral to the mechanics, which is something that I really like. Basically, every action you can explain thematically. And it's also just a really tight, like, resource management action selection game. And the action selection bit is interesting because everybody gets to put out their tokens for the spaces they want to go, but on your turn, you'll resolve one of those spaces. So what might happen is a space might get resolved before you're ready for it, but I like that each space has a secondary action. So even though you maybe were hoping to do something, you're never like SOL, because you can always do like the secondary action.
That stands for so out of luck.
So out of luck, and it is my number 90.
My number 89 is Captain Flip, and this is a very light, very, very quick game. This is like, you can play this in 8 minutes. You're always going to play 3 or 4 games of this in a sitting. And in Captain Flip, you've got a board, it's empty, it wants a bunch of tiles on it. You got a bag full of tiles that you're going to put on that board. Each turn, you're going to pull one tile out of that bag, and then you decide either to put it down on the side that you see or to flip it, in which case you have to play the other side of that tile. And all these tiles do different kind of interesting things. So there's these monkeys that flip other things, parrots that get you more tiles. There's these bombers who get you 5 coins, which is a lot of coins. But if you have 3 bombers, you lose the game. So those are really a risk. You've got these other guys, these old guys that get you maps, these other ladies that get you things for how many old guys you got. They definitely have different names than that, but it just has all these interesting little combos for only having like 10 different tiles. It's got 4 different boards that it comes with. Those all play a little bit different. And with all those different variations, it just really makes you want to play again. Let's play the other side of this board. Let's play this other board. And that's what we do every time we play it. And it is my 89.
My number 89 is Flamme Rouge, which is a fantastic race game, and it's specifically a cycling race game. And how it works is it uses 2 decks of cards, so I really like that it doesn't use any dice. And you have the different decks for your 2 different cyclists, so your sprinter and your rouleur, which I can never say properly. And on your turn, you pick up 4 cards from each one. You choose which one you want to play, and the others go on the bottom of your deck. The tricky thing is your goal is to always be in basically the middle of the pack, because if you get too far ahead or too far behind, you have to take an exhaustion card, and that's going to clog up your deck. So it's just this really clever, what seems like a really simple system, but it's like a game of inches where every space matters. And we've had so much fun, and we've played all kinds of tournaments, and it is my number 89.
My number 88 is White Castle, and this is a tight game. In White Castle, you've only got 9 turns, and you do a shocking amount of stuff in those 9 turns. Each turn, you're drafting a dice off of one of these bridges, then you're putting that dice onto one of these spaces. Sometimes it's going to get you 2 things, sometimes it's going to get you 1 thing. Often it's going to get you something that then is going to lead to something else, that then is going to lead to something else. That is really your hope in this game. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to put these people off of your board onto these various different spaces, out into this courtyard and into the castle and standing on those bridges, and all that stuff kind of is going to gain you more bonuses as you go through the game. And you've also got this like row of cards. You've got all these different ways to make combos and to make bonuses, and really to make that like 8th and 9th turn really be like a big giant combo that you've built up through all those other turns. And it's just such a satisfying puzzle, and it's always amazing how much you get done in those 9 turns. And it is my 88.
My number 88 is First Rat. And in First Rat, you are rats and you're collecting a whole bunch of garbage to put together a spaceship to go to space. And how it works is on your turn, you can move your rat up a one-way track and you get a resource for wherever you land. Or you can remove multiples of your rats if they can land on the same colored space. So you're really trying to combo your rats together to be able to get lots of different items. But it sounds more simple than it is, because there's a little bit more. You've also got this burrow where this rat's racing around that can get you more rats, or that can get you comic books with special powers. And it's very much a race game, because for every single item that you're able to like put together, whoever does that first gets the most amount of points. So you're racing to be the first to build a part of the spaceship, the first to get to the top, the first to give in the most amount of cheese, and it can lead to some like really interesting dynamics, and it is my number 88.
My number 87 is Castle Combo, and I think there's been a little bit of a trend of these like 9-card card tableau games, and it's a trend I really like, but Castle Combo is one of my favorites, and I really like quite a few things about it. First of all, the card drafting, because you've got this great little messenger that you're bumping up and down to like the rich people and the poor people to draft the different kinds of cards. That's very clever. And then also how they all combo together. Obviously, it's half of the name. And they really do combo in this castle. So when you're putting them into your grid, you're thinking obviously about what they're getting you right now, because money is pretty tight in this game. But also, obviously, you're thinking about what they're going to get you at the end of the game. And so you're trying to combo up all those different colors and arrows and stuff that everybody wants. And it just, at the end of the game, it feels really satisfying to see all the stuff that you actually made work out, or really not satisfying to see all the stuff that you did not quite make work out. And I never quite know who's winning, because there's just enough math to make it a little bit too hard, but the scoring doesn't feel that tough either. So this is just a really quick, fun game you can teach to anyone, and it is my 87.
My number 87 is Concordia. What you're doing is you are traveling around a map, you're manipulating goods and markets, and you are doing a little bit of deck building. And the deck building part is really one of the most interesting parts, because all of your actions are tied to your cards. So if there are more specific actions that you want to do, you can buy cards that tie into that. And all of your scoring is also tied to all of your cards. So there's a lot of different paths that you can go down, because you can just try and maximize your points for all of the cards you have and get a few other ones. Or you can really focus on a couple of categories and then really gun for buying those cards, hoping that it will pay off at the end of the game. And you don't have any points until the end of the game, so you won't have any idea if your strategy worked until then. And I really like that about this game, and it is my number 87.
My number 86 is Civilization: A New Dawn, and I'm a big fan of Civilization games, but they do tend to go on for a long time. They can be really hard to teach to new players, and Civilization: A New Dawn doesn't have those problems. This is such a streamlined game. It plays pretty quick, but it still is like a full experience. And when I say pretty quick, this is still like an hour and a half game. It's just not one of those like 4-hour long bad boys, but it kind of does what you can do in those. So you're building your cities, you're sending out armies, you're sending out folks to talk to the other cities. That's a very nice way of saying it. You're also exploring around if you've got the expansion, and this is one that I feel like the expansion's kind of necessary. And there's a whole bunch of different civilizations that you can be as well, and it really is that kind of Sid Meier's Civilization feeling, but just smooshed down in a really simple way. And it actually works pretty well at 2 as well. That's, I think, the only way we've ever played it, and I still really like this game. And it is my 86.
My number 86 is Underwater Cities, which is a game designed by Vladimir Suchy. And you are trying to build, obviously, an underwater city. So you're going to need a whole bunch of resources. You're going to need to make factories and cities. And there's a lot that you're going to need to do. And you're going to need to do it in a specific order. So what you're going to do on your turn is you have to select an action. And on the board, there are 3 different colors of action spaces. And they all do kind of different things. So some of them will get you resources. Some of them will build factories. Other ones might get you more cards. But importantly, anytime you go to a space, you also get to play a card. If the card color matches the action space you're going to, you get to do both actions. And so you really want to try and make sure you're always able to do both. But it's a really tight game, so that may not always be possible, or you may find yourself doing a couple of turns that you really kind of didn't really want to do, but you really wanted to make sure to play those cards. But when it works, when you can really combo the cards with the actions, it can feel really rewarding. And that's my number 86. And we're going to take a short pause for this exciting message.
My number 85 is Rebirth, and Rebirth is one of the newer Reiner Knizia games. I was going to say newest, but he has probably put out 84 games since this came out last year, but it is on the newer side. And in Rebirth, it's just a really quick, simple game. So you're taking a token, you're putting it on this board. You've got Scotland on one side, Ireland on the other side. And where you put it on the board is going to be dependent on the token as well as those different spaces. But that's all you're doing, taking a token, putting it on the board. And you're trying to surround these castles, you're trying to fill up these cities, you're trying to make rows of electric things and nature. You're also trying to get these cathedral goals. The 2 sides of the board both play different. I really like that in it, and it's subtle, but it does make a fairly big difference. And I think the biggest thing is just the interaction in this game, because this is really like a competitive abstract game where you're all vying for the same land, those same castles, those same goals, those same cathedrals, and where you're putting that token, even though that's such a simple, tiny decision, it becomes a much bigger decision with a lot of like little implications to think about. I love how quick it is, and it is my 85.
My number 85 is Lord of the Rings, Duel for Middle-earth, and this is like a new version of Seven Wonders Duel. It's more than a retheme because they've changed quite a bit, and I really like the changes. They have kept the core mechanic of the two-player drafting game, which is what I find really interesting, of what card do you take, because what card do you open up for your opponent. But the changes to this game I really like. Instead of the blue cards, there's now this track where Frodo and Sam are racing to Mount Doom, or the Nazgul are chasing Frodo and Sam. And so it's a great visual and a really clever system of how the track works. There's also, instead of a military track, a map board. So you're actually like putting people out onto the map, which again, I like that that's more visual. And I also like that the what's now the towers but was the wonders is shared. So it's a bit of a race for who can get those. So I like this version more than Seven Wonders Duel, which I really already liked a lot, and it's my number 85.
My number 84 is Flamme Rouge. And Flamme Rouge you already had on this list, and I think you nailed it when you said that this is really a game of inches, because that's really what Flamme Rouge is. You really do want to stick in that pack. And the interesting thing with Flamme Rouge is if you add up all your cards, you can just barely get to the end. So this is not a game where you can make a lot of mistakes, and really what you want to do is get that one extra space every turn, because the drafting, how the drafting works is the backpack catches up, then that pack catches up, then that pack catches up. So if you really time it right and you get lucky, you can gain a couple, maybe even 3 spaces if you do really well. There's also uphills and downhills that change things a little bit, but everything is changing things by like 1 space here and there. And I really like that, just how incredibly tight this is, and how you kind of get near the end and then someone breaks out of the pack and you finally try and like make your move, and it really feels like how a race would feel. And it just looks so pretty as well. And I like making the tracks. I like that I've got little puzzle pieces that I can make the track with. And we got the expansion, so we got even more puzzle pieces. And that is my 84.
My number 84 is Dinosaur World, which is the biggest, heaviest version of the Dinosaur Island themed games. And for this one, you are still trying to make dinosaurs. So you have to get a whole bunch of DNA, combo that DNA to make dinosaurs, but it brings up the making of the actual theme park a whole lot more. So you're able to get the different dinosaur paddocks, but you're also able to get different types of things to add to your park, and those tiles can do all kinds of stuff. Some of it might give you more DNA, some of it might be security, some of it might be like a T-Rex jet skiing. And what's super interesting is at the end of the round, you then have this like jeeple that you have to drive around. That's the tour for what the visitors are seeing. And so you really have to think about what your route is going to be and how to make it the most entertaining. And every time the Jeep drives by, everyone gets more bored, so it's less exciting next time. So you always try and have to make things more and more exciting while still keeping things safe and not too dangerous. And so Dinosaur World's my favorite of the series. It's a great theme park game, and it's my number 84.
My number 83 is Explorers of the North Sea, and I feel like this is the most overlooked of the Shem Phillips games, but I really like this one. In Explorers of the North Sea, you're exploring the North Sea, but you've got these Vikings in their Viking ship, and you're going around to different islands, and you've got animals that you're picking up, and I love that you pick them up and you have to put them in your boat and then sail them with you. That's really fun. You're building up these forts, and you're claiming different islands, and all of the kind of stuff you would expect, but I really like that you build out the space as you go, and everyone builds out the space. So everyone's adding to the islands, and you're kind of competitively adding to the islands, trying to make their islands smaller and your islands bigger. And that's part of it, but also you can then go to the islands that they've got. Also, this is one where the expansion does help a lot because that lets you drop off the animals in different places and explore a little bit further. But the exploration in this is just really fun, and I think every time I talk about this, I talk about Wind Waker because it's my favorite Zelda, and I love in that having all these tiny islands, and I love any time there's tiny islands. This does it really well, and it is my 83.
My number 83 is Rolling Realms, and this is designed by Jamie Stegmaier. And Rolling Realms is a roll and write game, and how it works is every round there are 3 different cards, and each card represents a different board game. Each game there are 3 different rounds, so you're playing with 9 cards across the game. But what I really like is the mechanics and theme of the game that the cards represent is really tied to what you're doing. So for the viticulture card, you're trying to make different glasses of wine. For between 2 castles, you're trying to fill up 2 different castles. And at first, all of the different cards were just Stonemaier games. But since then, there have been so many other cards and representing so many different board games. So I love seeing some of my favorite games represented in these roll and write cards. And there's so much variability because sometimes the realms will synergize really well, where some of them will give you all kinds of resources and another one will spend those resources. Other times it can be really tough, but the nice thing is everybody is playing with the same 3 cards. So if it's tough for you, it's tough for everyone. And because we have so many different cards, we have played this game a ton, and it is my number 83.
My number 82 is Euphoria. And first of all, I really like the theme of Euphoria. This is a dystopian world where you're trying to keep your workers kind of dumb. So your workers are dice, and every time you bring them back, you roll them. And if they roll too high and get too smart, they're just gonna leave the world. They realize that this world's terrible. But while you've got them there, you can make them do all different actions. So you're trying to get resources, and then you're trying to build these different buildings. But also the buildings are also these fun dystopian buildings that have these really terrific names. And if you don't take part in building a building, then that's bad for you. And that's gonna give you some sort of a negative that you've got to deal with until you can go and contribute to that building. So they're kind of forcing you to be part of this dystopian society. And there are these 4 different sections to the board, which I like because all of this kind of paints this little story in my head. One thing though is that this is a game you really need the expansion because the markets are a lot more interesting in the expansion version, and it makes it playable for 2 players with really solid bots. This is, I think, the first Atomas that I had played from Atoma Factory. It's still probably my favorite one that they've done. And it works really well. It's better with more players, but it does work well at 2 players as well. And it is my 82.
My number 82 is Revive. And Revive is a bit of an interesting one because the theme isn't immediately apparent. It's like you're in a post-apocalyptic world, I think, but what really makes this game interesting is it's like a Frankenstein of mechanics. It has all of these different things smushed together, but in a way that really works. First of all, it has asymmetric factions, which I love, and it has a player board that lets you unlock different abilities depending on when you take people off. It also has exploration, so the map's always different because you're flipping over different tiles. It also has track climbing because you're putting down different people in different buildings, and that will let you go up these different colored tracks. And as you go up those different tracks, you're able to add different bonus tiles, and those will be different game to game, and so that will give you different actions or stronger actions. There's also deck building, where you're buying cards and then playing those cards and slotting them into your board. And for those slots, there's engine building because you're able to build up those slots to get more resources if you play the right color card. And so the magic really is just the combination of all of that that leads for a really, really thinky game. I haven't even talked about like the goals on the different corners of the board, which is something that I love, that you can only score usually a couple of them, but there's so much going on, but it really immerses me, and it's my number 82.
My number 81 is Wonderland's War. And first of all, I love Wonderland's War because it is based on Alice in Wonderland, and I'm a huge Alice in Wonderland fan. And I like that it captures kind of the heart of Alice in Wonderland, but it puts it in this different place because you've got this giant war going on, obviously, as the title would suggest. And you've got these 5 really asymmetrical characters that really do play differently from each other. And the cool thing in this game is that it's got 2 really separate parts to every round. So first of all, you're drafting your cards, you're going around the Mad Tea Party, and that's a pretty interesting thing on its own. It's this rondel mechanism. All the cards are really helpful. There's some cards you really don't want other people to get. That's going to affect where you're putting troops and a whole bunch of stuff that's going to help you out in the second round. It's also going to affect taking stuff off your board, making you more powerful. But then in the second round is this bag builder, but it's a pretty heavy bag builder, and they use bag building actually to be like the fights in the different parts of Wonderland. And that's a really cool mechanism. So it's a push your luck game, but it's a back and forth. It's like a game of chicken. It's like a chicken push your luck game of bag building, which feels kind of Wonderlandian as well. But there's just way too much in this to describe right here. But if you like Alice in Wonderland, if you like bag builders, definitely give this one a try, and it is my 81.
My number 81 is Spirit Island, and the thing I love most about Spirit Island is its theme, because what you are is your different spirits of the island, and there are various invaders that keep coming and coming and coming and try to build, and you're trying to scare them away. So you can win if you've caused enough fear that the invaders stop coming, but they're going to keep coming. And it has this very interesting pace where at the beginning of the game, you're not a particularly strong spirit, you're not that scary, so the invaders seem unstoppable. And then over time, you get stronger and you're able to do more. Usually at that point, it feels like the invaders have done so much. How can you possibly cause enough to win? But it happens. There's this like tipping point that you're all of a sudden able to do like a couple of big turns, really get rid of some of their structures and clear things out. And it's such an interesting pace. And all of the different spirits are incredibly asymmetric. So it's really fun to play them and to try and figure them out, because it takes a couple of games before you got the handle of it. And it is my number 81.
And that is it. That brings us down to 81. So next time, we're going to be counting down the 70s. And please do go and check out the preview page for last week of summer. We're very excited about this, so we would love to share it with you.
Thank you so much for watching. As usual, please like, subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you next time for another game.